Hello, Paul. Oh, wait, I'm still on mute. Oh, wait, I can't unmute. Oh, wait.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't want to. Hello.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? You feeling okay?
I'm okay. We'll go with okay.
Are you going to have to go and get tested?
I hope not, but we will find out. So fingers crossed. What's that?
Have you had one yet?
No, I haven't.
No.
Yeah.
I did about, what was that, like 6 weeks ago?
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't anywhere near as bad as I'd anticipated, and they had the results like the next day.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that's good to hear.
They just give you a website, and you just log into that website, and it tells you your results.
Okay. Well, yeah, I should probably pop in then and just be sure.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have the peace of mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, Paul. It's Shelley here. My mom had one, and she said it was what she envisioned a lobotomy feeling like.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that it's a little unpleasant with the nose tickle, so.
She may have been stretching things. I was told that I have a good nose for the test, that was no deviated septum, just a straight run up there.
Okay.
It was the strangest compliment I've ever had.
Yeah, I can believe that. That definitely would be.
Yeah.
Hello, Ansley. How are you?
Hi, Paul. I'm great. How are you?
I'm not bad, thanks. How's today?
Today's good. Today's great.
Good, good.
Hi, Ainsley.
Hello.
Are you at home as well then?
Yeah, I'm Zooming from home. I'm obviously Zooming, but I'm from home.
Very good. Well, you can be at any location. So, so who's in the office right now then, or in the boardroom?
Right now,
Alyssa's here.
Alyssa, Shelley, Andrea, Nick, myself, and as well, we have Joseph joining us just for the KPI report if there's any questions.
Yeah.
Still waiting for John and Rosanna.
So John's sending regrets. He won't be able to make it tonight. That's my understanding. So, yeah. Sorry, it's a little warm. Okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes then, and we'll get started.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if Dave Purdy's on the line yet, but he was joining remotely as well, Paul.
Okay.
Yes, Dave is on.
Okay.
I am here.
Same here.
Oh.
Hello, Nick.
Oh.
Hey, Paul.
Is it Meet, like Teams, or is it Zoom?
It's Zoom.
I don't think it's Zoom.
Yeah, it's in the calendar. Like under the board meeting, so it's the same one every time. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm looking for it under Teams. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm just so used to everybody being now. I'm like, I don't.
It's the end of the day.
It is the end of the day.
The reason why we can't do it on Teams is because then we can't broadcast it out.
No.
Jason said we don't have the ability to do that.
I think it's just simply because that's what I'm used to now. It's my default.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
How is
Pardon me?
How is Matt Lee? I'm not sure if it's Matt Lee, but
It's Pat Lee. Yeah, it's been going quite well. So yeah, he's been great. He's actually starting to almost walk. So like tonight he stood up and sort of went like this independently, and which is really exciting. And yeah, so he's in a really, really good spot. His 1 year birthday was on Saturday.
Congratulations.
So yeah, it's flown by, but he's a gem. So it's been a real treat to be with him. So I'm really lucky.
So when he stands up, do you take a video camera or a phone out?
No, I should have though. I didn't even think of it, because it happens. I was just thinking about that today. That I haven't really got like a recording of his like any steps or anything like that yet, because it just happens randomly. You're not like sitting there prepared, and so I need to start staging something as the official. Yeah, thanks for asking. That's for sure. Yeah, it's good. Definitely a different world. So I go back on not this Monday, but next Monday. So
Oh, already?
yeah, it's flown by. That's for sure. So yeah.
You have a little birthday party?
We did. Yeah, we had a good, okay number for COVID over, which was mainly family. And yeah, he had a cake smash and did all that. And so that was really cute. So yeah, it's always nice to, like, he doesn't fully know, but at least he feels, you could tell he felt special and people were paying attention to him and holding him. And so that was cute.
Nice.
Yeah, which was
Yeah,
good.
excited to see his grandparents again.
Yeah, very much so. And we saw them a few days before, and he hasn't seen them since March. Sorry, that was his great grandparents. His grandparents, yeah, he saw fairly recently, but he was happy to see both sets because Dave and Carolyn came down from Cornwall. That's where they're from. So my wife's parents. Yeah, it was good. Exciting times, that's for sure. Is Rosanna in then?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Ainsley, do you and I make quorum? Do you know? I would think so, right?
That is a good question.
It's easy when there's an odd number if you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I would think I don't know, maybe we don't, because the majority would be 3.
Oh, I think I just heard the door open. I'm pretty sure that's Rosanna there.
It sounds like this might be her.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
here she is.
Yeah.
Never know the answer.
How are you? I'm good. How are you? Good. Everybody else on?
Everyone else is on Zoom, yeah.
John sent his regrets, so Ainsley and Paul on Zoom. And Dave. We're just trying to see if we have quorum and he didn't make it in. Yeah, they didn't know. Traffic has increased incredibly. I've definitely noticed the uptick, yeah. Yeah.
It's back to normal again, right? So, yeah. I agree, Shelley. That's
The teachers and the school.
PTA traffic, though, right? So, yeah.
I remember at the beginning of COVID, you could just sail anywhere in 10 minutes. It was great.
A big small town.
Now, this would be what it would be like if we had an expressway.
That's true.
Like any type of European city. Yeah.
Or Canadian.
Yeah. I noticed that Windsor has one of those I think it's called an EC way or, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We have an old village charm here.
Absolutely.
There's actually there's some interesting Facebook pages by some of the heritage societies about the old transportation plans from like the 60s, which were about freeways connecting and everything like that. So they post the maps and stuff. It's kind of interesting to look at, and I think it's like Vintage London it's called or whatever. They got a separate page. So yeah, what could have been.
I think the plan was to go right through Old North too. So I think a lot of those houses would have been taken out if they actually would have gone with the one ring road that they were talking about.
Yeah, and one was Gainsborough and Windermere and linking that all the way across and completely bisecting the Medway Heritage Forest, which would not have been good. So thankfully things work out in the end as we evolve. So.
It would not be good to not have that forest, but I would love that drive-through.
Yes.
That would take quite a bit of time off my drive.
That's very true.
Yeah. It's funny how you can see the social priorities shifting when you look at iterations of things like traffic
That's
plans.
true.
And, yeah.
Yeah, and then you wonder what the backstory is for coalitions forming and stuff like that. So, yeah. All right, everyone. Well, I think maybe we'll get the meeting to order then. So I'll formally call things to order for the recognition of Indigenous peoples and lands. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the treaty territory of the Anishinaabe, which is defined within the pre-Confederation treaty known as the London Township Treaty of 1796. Throughout time, this region has also become the current home to the Haudenosaunee and Lenni Lenape nations. With that, completion and acceptance of the agenda, is there anything to add to the agenda tonight?
One very small change for staff report 2020-51, the Regen 2020 report. Shelley is going to speak to that rather than Andrea.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Makes a lot of sense. So I didn't mean that in a pejorative way, but completely understand that change. Not at my usual polished self, my apologies. Okay, any other agenda changes? Suggestions? Okay, I don't think that needs to be formally amended because it's just the speaker. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Ms. Anderson, seconded by, I'm guessing, Ms. Wilcox.
Yes.
Still trying to
Okay.
work through Zoom. Yeah.
Excellent. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures that anyone has for any of the items on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. We have two for us tonight. One is the meeting of June the 18th, and the other is the special meeting from July the 28th. Are there any concerns with the minutes? Any amendments anyone would like to make? Seeing none, we'll just deem those. Oh, sorry, Ms. McKenzie.
It should just be noted that on the July 28th meeting, I wasn't there.
I didn't think oh, you know what?
That's all.
I got it on the in-camera minutes and not that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll adjust that.
Okay,
Okay.
small adjustment.
Okay, and so we're just going to deem those carried with the amendment administratively then and move on then. Sounds great, thank you. The next, communications. We have a few communications tonight. One is from Mr. Purdy actually a series that are coming through Mr. Purdy, I believe, through the administration related to minimum rent, the housing services update, and an overview of Bill 184. Ms. McKenzie, I don't know if you'd like to speak to that or if Mr. Purdy would like to speak to it all.
So certainly I can speak fairly quickly. I mean, these are communications that have come through to us, and obviously for the new minimum rent, those have taken effect as of July 1, so that has been distributed to all of the staff here, and they will start to make the appropriate adjustments. I think if you read into it, it's a staggered adjustment, so we're just increasing them the rents gradually by $8 a year. So that has already been rolled out with our staff. And really for the overview of the legislative changes, and certainly Dave is welcome to speak to it if he wants to add anything. At this point, there isn't anything specific right now that will impact us. It's going to be more, I believe, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, that they will continue to engage with providers and accept feedback as we continue to make some changes to the act itself.
Mr. Purdy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you, but I can confirm, yeah, the from the Housing Services Act regulation changes, the ministry will be engaging consultation with the housing community, both the service managers and I do also believe the housing providers as well, in order to gain some insight before making some of the regulatory suggestions. So right now the act is in place, but they're in the process of creating the regs. And the information that was passed along was at the request of the Ministry of Municipal Housing, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, in order to pass it along to housing providers, so they're kept well informed about what the changes, context of the changes are. The details of those changes are what the ministry is working on now, and that's what I mentioned, that they'll have consultational opportunities as well to form some input into that as the ministry goes to finalize and formalize those in the future.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. Any questions? Seeing none, could I have a motion to receive the communications? Ms. Wilcox, seconded by Ms. Anderson. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. Delegations, we have no delegations tonight, so we'll move on to our consent agenda. We have a number of consent items. Are there any that people would like to have pulled individually for discussions? We'll have discussion in general or comments related to them as a bundle, but if there's any that you'd like to remove specifically for voting, just let me know. Seeing none. All right, are there any comments, questions on the consent items? Ms. Wilcox.
So through you, Chair, I just wanted to extend my thanks and actually really great work on the KPI summary and the reform. So just wanting to note that work and extend my thanks for that.
Great. Anything further? And I just have one comment related to the CEO's report. I really want to commend Ms. McKenzie and her team for the staff critical incident support training. I think that's a really good introduction. I'm really glad to see those sessions coming forward, given the challenges that we are faced with sometimes as an organization. I think that's very helpful for everyone. So thank you. Seeing nothing further, could I have a motion to approve the consent items as presented? Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Wilcox. Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, they are approved. That's great. Moving on to reports and business. We have the 2021 provisional budget. I'll turn things over to Mr. Vanderbilt.
Good afternoon, through the chair. We just scroll into the board reports. One second.
It's on page 67.
Yes. All right. So through the chair, for each year in the multi-year budget cycle, so from 2020 to 2023, LMCH is to prepare a provisional operating capital budget, typically around August. This is to be submitted to the city and the city administrator, and they do this in order to understand how our finances blend in with the rest of the finances for this division and the rest of the ABC. If anything is not in line with the capital money that we've been allocated, this is one of those moments to speak up and to go to city council in order to either ask for more money or to acknowledge reductions. So neither is the case for this particular submission. It's important to note that this budget is still subject to recosting, and so by the end of this year, probably in the months of November, December, we will go through a recosting exercise for the 2021 operating capital budget, which then will inform a greater level of detail for the organization and its needs, and also for the status of our ecosystem at that point in time. So from you, the board of directors, I'm asking for approval for the 2021 budget, which contains a $25 million operating budget, a $9.8 million capital budget, and for you to receive, for information purposes, the updated budget projections for 2022 and 2023, which are still subject to 2 recosting exercises per budget per year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Vanderbilt? Any comments? I just have one then. I'm just wondering if you could walk us through what the implications are then of approving the motion and the two items in principle. I just wonder what the in principle means then and how they'll be implemented and affected by administration.
Absolutely. So the total numbers, the $25 million for operating and $9.8 million for capital, those total numbers will not change, even in the recosting exercise. However, the way that our organization will allocate those dollars to different line items on our income statement will potentially slightly differ depending on what we need as an organization at that time. So at the end of the year, we'll do a zero-based budget exercise where we will build all of our budgets from scratch, from zero, and then we build up all material accounts until they match the total dollar numbers that will be approved today. So the total numbers will not change, the allocation of those numbers potentially will change.
Okay. And just another one from me, are the totals generally consistent with the approved multi-year budget that was before the shareholder? And if so, or sorry, if not, then are we suggesting any amendments through the multi-year budget process?
Good question. Typically, they are in line with what was approved through the multi-year budget. If there are any changes from what was approved, we have to go back to the city to either ask for more capital or display a reduction of capital. In this case, there is a bit of a change based on what we submitted to the city last year and then what is currently going forward, and that's related to business case 19. So business case 19 and the additional monies awarded to us for staffing, those are not part of our base budget submission. And therefore, you'll see a slight change in what is going forward right now for the 2021 provisional budget as it relates to what we originally submitted a year ago.
So does that mean that there's an increased ask for funding from the shareholder then that we're going to be making as a result of this? No, okay.
So we did that originally through the business cases, which were approved. Actually, we're tacking on the business cases to our base operating budget.
Okay.
But that is from the initial submission.
Okay, thank you. Further questions on this item? Seeing none, we have three suggested recommendations to approve the operating capital budgets in principle and receive the report for information. Would someone like to move those recommendations? Ms. Wilcox, seconded by Ms. Anderson. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. That's great. Thanks a lot. All right, moving into our next agenda item, we have the asset management plan. Ms. Chowns, I'll turn things over to you. This is a great report and a lot of really good hard work that's gone into it, so thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. So the accolades really lie with Marisa Benuelos, who has been working diligently on this plan for us for some time now. She did circulate the plan, and I believe we received comments from Ms. Wilcox, so thank you for that. And we are still open to receiving comments from the rest of the board. I would like to share with you that Marisa has worked really closely with the partners at the city on some of the more sensitive wordsmithing items around recognizing additional funding that the city brought forward in the last business case, and then acknowledging the role that the county plays through the funding piece. And so we want to ensure that the plan is received well and that we're able to socialize the ideas that we're putting forward in this plan. And so to that end, we continue to do some minor wordsmithing, really editing, nothing really in principle to the messaging, but more in terms of ensuring that we have succinct messages that the community will receive. And then we have also recognizing that the plan has been built over a period of time and put together not necessarily in chronological order, are having it reviewed by our communications person and a graphic designer to put the finishing polished look on the plan. And so I want to be forthright in letting you know that there will be some very minor differences in the wording of the final plan as to, like I said, just tightening up our messaging. But that if you would like, we will gladly provide you with that in draft before we put a bow on it. So my ask is, would you like that?
Comments from board members. Ms. Anderson.
Through you, thank you, Paul, through you. I would like to see it in draft before the final, with those final changes.
Absolutely.
Ms. Wilcox, you had your hand up as well.
I would just echo that.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe if I could suggest we just make sure the changes are highlighted just for ease of interpretation and review then, if that's possible, Ms. Chance.
Absolutely. So anticipating that would be your response, that is our plan moving forward.
Well done.
The other thing that our team is working on is some aids for folks like you or for Ms. McKenzie that will allow you to speak to the plan should you be called upon in a public forum to talk specifically about it. And so this will be some highlights, some sort of basic Q&A, and that will be sure that you've got the tools that you need to address any ad hoc questions that you might get. It's a huge document, and we don't want you being caught off guard. So we're going to try and anticipate the types of things that you may get asked, and prepare you with the messaging around that.
Okay. Great, thank you. Perfect. Any questions for Ms. Chowns? So I do have a few, and my apologies for not getting them to you in advance. I'm just wondering if you could speak a bit to the $150 million gap that's identified. I'm assuming this is above the business case ask that we've already made. And the report does, I believe, allude to the fact that we won't be presenting any sort of amendments through this multi-year budget period, but we'll be seeking additional funding through the next multi-year budget ask. And I'm wondering if you just sort of clarify and confirm that for me.
Yes, and thank you for the question. So we've had a lot of discussion around how we present these numbers because there can be some confusion around it. So precisely as you suggested, the $147 million gap is above and beyond the commitment through the current four-year budget. And we have elected to plan our spending around having that additional funding addressed in 2024. So our ask is not that the city provide any additional funding in the current budget cycle, rather that this would allow us to socialize the messages found within the plan and work towards finding those funding solutions with the shareholder prior to that budget cycle so that we have a plan to move forward with. The $147 million gap is what we have identified as being required to maintain our portfolio in the condition of fair. And so by no means are we looking to convert existing buildings into the Taj Mahal, but given the aging infrastructure, there is a fairly significant requirement that exceeds the existing funding commitment.
Yeah, and I definitely note the number of assets that have been labeled as very poor that we have in our portfolio, which is very high, which speaks to the challenged investment, we'll say, that we've had in the past. So I definitely recognize the need for some catch-up. I just want to know if you could speak to, so that additional $150 million, though, that's in the report, which is referenced a few times. How much then how much do you anticipate the ask coming forward for future future budget asks as a result of the asset management plan then? And if you could maybe speak to that in relation to what was asked for during this past multi-year budget process, just in the order of magnitude.
Sure. So I would need to refer to the proposed spending schedule to be able to pull out what piece will be reflected in the next 4-year budget cycle with the municipality. So is that something I can get back to you on?
Mr. Vanderbilt, you had your hand up.
If I may, I'd like to build on Shelley's comments. Because I was heavily involved in a multi-year budget cycle prior to Ms. Chown's arrival at the organization, it's not just a matter of the dollar amount that we want to set in our ask of the city. It's actually delineated in collaboration with the treasurer and corporate finance. And so together over a set time frame, we want to acknowledge that there is a gap in our infrastructure, that is XYZ million. And at the same time, we also want to understand what the capacity is from the city's perspective, let alone the capacity is from us as an organization to implement those dollars during a given budget year cycle. So at this point in time, because we're so early into the cycle, I think it will be difficult to determine. But as we get closer to the next round, and then those collaborations and discussions are started back up with corporate finance from the city, you'll have a better idea of what to determine. But it's unrealistic at this point to ask for that entire sum of money, as I've been told many, many times during the budget year cycle.
Right, okay. Yeah, and just mindful that when we come to the next 4-year budget, that it'll take us to almost the end of the timeline for the plan, right, for that. Sorry, Ms. Chance, you had your hand up again.
So there is a proposed schedule on page 164 of the plan in table 34. But the interesting thing about this table is that it talks about the infrastructure gap as a cumulative gap. And so
okay.
The first 4 years of the plan reflect existing conditions that are known. And then from 2024 and out to 2029, they are speculative, right? Based on our anticipated commitment from the city.
Right, okay. So I guess it's a safe assumption that our 2024 ask will be a lot more significant than we've had in the past, given all the good hard work that's been done for the asset management plan then.
Yes, certainly it is fair to say that. However, part of the asset management strategy is to continue to look for alternative sources of funding. And so we've had some pretty thoughtful conversations with the folks over at the city about different ways of doing that. And so we've got some good leads that we're investigating right now. And so our hope is that through those continued efforts over the next handful of years, that we will be able to lessen what we're looking for from a municipal investment point and increase what we may be able to resource elsewhere.
Okay, that's great. That's very helpful. The only other question I had is, in terms of this suite of possible alternatives that were explored, there was the one that was, forget what was named, just let me see here. We asked for significant mitigation. There was one that had us at 80% for the medium category versus 100% with significant mitigation. But I didn't find the report spoke to a lot of that option. I'm just wondering what, recognizing that 80% is still a lot better than the condition right now, what's the, qualitatively, what's the impact versus that option in opposed to significant mitigation?
So thank you for the question, and it gets to be a fairly comprehensive document when you start talking about the medium risk items and how the risks associated with those particular building components contribute to the overall rating of the building or the asset.
Right.
And so so our strategy around investing heavily in the high and medium risk categories is that we take items like elevators, electrical systems, anything that poses a threat to life safety, and we invest in those. And so I'm sure you can appreciate that we can spend a lot of money on an elevator system in a building, but if everything else in the building has been underinvested in, it doesn't necessarily improve the overall rating of that building. It just reduces risk to life safety. And so we've really taken a risk management lens to targeting how we identify spends within the high and medium risk categories.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you. Further questions on this item?
I talk about this all day long.
I can only imagine. It's very comprehensive and thorough, and I know the amount of work that goes into preparing something like this with sort of my other hat. So thank you for that. It's
Nobody ever wants
great to see
about
coming forward. Definitely helps us making decisions going forward, right? So it's a wonderful tool. Further questions then and comments? Ms. Wilcox.
Not a question, just a comment. Thank you for addressing the questions that I had put forward, and I would echo the chair's comments in that it is a great deal of effort to put this together, and I'm glad to hear that there will be a communications lens on this. It is a hard document often to make your way through, and any type of asset management plans, I think that would be really helpful, and for both the board and also the shareholder as well.
Great. Thanks for that. Any further comments? All right, well, we have two recommendations before us. One is to receive the report as presented, and the other is to approve the asset management plan, recognizing that the final draft will be coming back to us with the editorial corrections that Ms. Shans spoke to. Would someone like to make that motion? Ms. Anderson, thank you. Ms. Wilcox, you seconding, thank you. Any further discussion? Great, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None. Well, great, thank you very much, and thanks again. Okay, the next item for us tonight, so I'm flipping between screens right now, the social media policy. I'll turn things over to Ms. McKenzie.
Thank you very much. So before you the social media policy, put together by Jordan Whalen is our communications person here at London Housing. So we're asking that the board approve the attached social media policy. Part of what we are trying to start to do as an organization is engage a lot more in social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram. Currently, we are only on Twitter on a semi-regular basis, but it's another way for us to start to communicate with our tenants, to start to share some positive messaging with some of our partners, to highlight some of the programming that'll be going on our site. But it's also imperative for us to be able to understand that we need to have rules and regulations for anybody that wants to be providing any commentary on any of the sites, and that we understand what our obligations are to monitor the content. So as such, we've put forward a fairly, Jordan has drafted a really very well-rounded policy, and we're happy to share it with all of you today.
Great, thank you. I believe this was at our committee of the whole meeting last month. That's correct. Okay. Any questions for Ms. McKenzie? Seeing none, could you just maybe speak very briefly about some of the high-level changes that were made in relation to the previous draft that we had? Because I didn't see anything in the report about that.
No.
Not in detail, but...
Some of it, Chair, was simply reordering the actual look of the policy. It was bringing forward the definitions. It was highlighting a little bit more. We filled in a little bit more information around the related documentation. I don't think we had included any of that previously. And then we made obviously all of the slight language corrections that needs to be included, and
Okay.
we softened a little bit of language about staff being able to access their own social media on their own devices.
Great.
Okay.
That's helpful. Thank you. Anything further on the social media policy? Ms. Anderson?
Thanks, and through you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I think it looks great, and I appreciate that it's very thorough and would have been a lot of work. And I applaud the goal of using this as a way to maybe meaningfully engage with tenants or other members of the public that are more comfortable on something like a social media platform. And I think it's a positive step forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. That's lovely. Anything further? We have a recommendation for us to approve the social media policy. Would someone like to make that motion? Ms. Wilcox, seconded by Ms. Anderson. Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval? None opposed? That's great. It's carried. Okay, moving along, we have a regeneration update from Ms. Chowns, which is great to see, and I will turn things over to you.
Thank you. So further to our conversation at our committee of the whole, we recognize the critical importance of getting this piece of work right. And so for that fact, and with your support, we have continued to develop some structure around the project, and specifically in fleshing out some of the finer details in our milestone project schedule. And so now that we have a project milestone schedule that aligns both with our financial strategy and the London plan, the strategy put forward by the city, we really feel strong about our go-forward position to start digging into some of the finer pieces of work. And so to that end, additional work has been done in building our project documentation and starting to really engage in some of the preparation pieces. And so our goal is to be able to have the discussion with the board about making the public declaration of our final site selection. And that piece of work needs to be timed specifically around our ability to engage the community and the tenants, because that will then be information that's available in the public realm. And so we are working on that. Very excited to be working on that. In regards to that public declaration, it is our intent to be able to make, to really bring some of the pieces from the site selection criteria process together into a briefing document that sort of outlines the decision-making process and supports our site selection declaration. And the other piece of messaging that we want to bring forward when we do make that public declaration is the fact that this is really our foray into regeneration, and that by making a public declaration about our site selection, that by no means does that indicate that this is the only location that we'll be working at, but rather that this is our first location that we'll be working at. And so we need to be thoughtful about that messaging to ensure that it's inclusive and recognizes some of the work that has been done in many of our communities to prepare us for that piece.
Great. Thank you for that. Questions about the report and or timeline? Ms. Wilcox.
Thank you, and through the chair. Just looking at significant effort and time that will be required around public consultation, as well as engaging with tenants. There's a good chance to still be in a COVID world, and wondering if that has sort of played into the timelines that are shown here, or is that expected to have any impact?
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, through the chair. So thank you for that question. And isn't that the crystal ball that we all wish that we had, right? In regards to the public consultation piece, both our tenant services and communications folks here in the office are already working on that strategy. We will be looking to the city to set the example around the public participation pieces as required through the legislation. But in terms of our own tenant engagement and in alignment with our own efforts to have our staff back in the communities, it is our intent to do as much communication as we can with our tenants in a face-to-face environment. This is a communication format that works well for this particular demographic of folks. And depending on what those final messages end up looking like, will really shape our engagement strategy. So it's not a piece of work of the project that I am involved in. And so until we have those messages, I can't say with 100% certainty that it will all happen in public settings. And certainly, thank you for raising the point about COVID. We'll be sure to include some contingency in our strategy around that.
Further questions? I really appreciate the report, and the timeline's especially helpful, so thanks very much for that. Got some important decisions to make in the fall, that's for sure. All right, seeing no further comments and questions, we have a motion to receive the project milestones contained in the report. Is there someone that'd like to make that motion? Ms. Wilcox, seconded by Ms. Anderson. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Great, well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have a governance motion from Ms. Wilcox. I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, and through the chair. So for anybody who may be streaming right now, I will give a brief overview of the motion and appreciate your consideration. So and when we consider the duties assigned to the interim board, one of the key pieces is for us to determine and recommend to the shareholder when and if a revised board composition is needed. So at our last, when we met as a committee of the whole, I was asked to serve as the governance lead. And so before you is an overview of what the framework for governance review, with a particular focus on the composition of the board. This is a really key item, and there is some urgency in getting this done and making this recommendation. So recommending that, or proposing that it start as soon as possible and involve the key pieces that are outlined here. So look at sort of setting the context, what do we know in terms of existing documentation, whether that's through a previous strategic plan that's still in place right now, or the regulatory and legislative frameworks and guidelines that guide the organization. Stakeholder interviews and engagement, certainly that would include the shareholder, the county of Middlesex, the manager, tenants and staff of the organization. Also looking at a leading practice review, see what is out there and what other organizations that are a good comparable are undertaking with this regard, and then looking for recommendations back to the board. Given the nature of the review, I'm suggesting that an external consultant be engaged to undertake this work, and then we have the motion before you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you for that. One thing I think we'll do perhaps before considering the motion is we did have a motion in committee to appoint Ms. Wilcox as the lead for the governance review, and so we'll do that formally at the board meeting now. So I'll make that motion if we could have that recorded then. Ms. Anderson, would you like to second that then? Great. Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay. So Ms. Wilcox's motion is put before us. A seconder, Ms. Anderson, would you like to make the second that motion? Great, thank you. Is there any further comment on it? Discussion? So I really want to thank you for putting it together. I think it's going to be very helpful. I will note that the timeline is pretty aggressive for all of us collectively. And there is some expectation from the shareholder that we report back as soon as we can on this matter. I am working with Ms. Livingston on some of her thoughts on the timeline as well, which I'll report back to you all further too. So I think as soon as we can get the consultant hired would be really, really helpful. So that's all for me. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is carried. Great. Looking forward to this exciting project as it rolls forward. All right, so I think that takes us to, oh, Ms. McKenzie, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just saying that's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that takes us to all the reports and business. In terms of the agenda, any new business and inquiries, I'm not aware of any. Does anyone have any that they'd like to raise at this time? Seeing none, we have the in-camera minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any concerns or comments related to the in-camera minutes that were distributed? All right, those are then deemed carried. Okay, meeting adjourned, but before we do, I think this is Mr. Vanderveld's last meeting with us. So thank you very much, Nick, on behalf of the board for all of your hard work and service to the organization. So I know I've learned a lot from you in our brief time together, and I appreciate the innovation that you brought to the organization as well too. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it, and we wish you best in your new endeavors.
Thanks so much.
Excellent. Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of our meeting, which is quicker than 7 o'clock as was anticipated. So, but a lot of really good discussion tonight, a lot of really important items coming forward. So thank you for all of your hard work, especially given that we're deep in the summer now and getting close to the fall actually, which is pretty crazy. So, all right, can I have a motion then to adjourn? Ms. Wilcox, seconded by Ms. Anderson. All those in favor? It is carried. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We're adjourned, and we will see you all formally next month. Thanks a lot. And thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Enjoy your
Thanks,
evening.
bye.
And thanks for accommodating me too. I appreciate it.
No problem.